announcements. Let's begin. Tonight's event is being filmed for our YouTube channel and will be posted by this evening. A couple quick shout outs. Tonight's book is published by Borda Books and Angela Borda, a wonderful publishing company. And Angela, thank you so much for all that you do in town. So thank you. Before I turn it over to Shelly to give him a proper intro, to give Max Talley a proper intro, I just wanted to say that we at Chaucer's really appreciate you, Max, for all the hard work you put in, not only with your writing, but with your contributions to the local literary world here. I jokingly think of Max as the James Brown of local authors, because he is one of the hardest working authors out there, and he's tirelessly promoting. And if I can enlist you to help to counsel every other author on what to do in promoting your book, selling your book, you're hired, man. So thank you, Max.
Thank you, Mike.
Without further ado, I'd like to bring out my friend and mentor, Shelly Lowenkopf, to give him a proper introduction. Step back here, Shelly.
Thank you all.
You got to step back there.
Oh, yeah.
The camera.
He wants to get this on. Thank you all for being here. And what really is such a big deal about introducing the writer Max Talley? Another book, excellent stories. He's got a novel in the works. He's probably even now thinking about a short story he hasn't written yet. So my challenge, how do I introduce him? Let's talk about Max Talley, the artist. Here's a guy who draws and sketches. They're whimsical, they're wonderful, they're disturbing, they're everything painting should be. And if you read these pages, you'll see his characters coming to life. Whimsical and wonderful and everything characters should be. But hey, that's nothing. I should introduce Mac Talley, the musician. Not only does Mac have perfect pitch, but all of his characters, they have individual time signatures, no repetitions, different people, and he puts them to play almost like a Mozart concerto or a Beethoven symphony. But hey, we're just getting started. There's Mac Talley, the humorist. Any one of these pages has at least one laugh. Not because of what was left out, because of what was put in. And then what about Mac Talley, the satirist? Making fun of things, suggesting answers. Well, okay. You pick up any story in this book, and you're going to find all of these individuals, and then you're going to find Mac, the orchestrator of surprises, the magician. So basically, the only thing left for me to do now is to say, will the real Mac Talley please stand up?
So I did a signing here last year, and because some of my stories are written from a female perspective, I asked a great writer, Maryanne Knight, to come up and read one of those stories. She was such a hit, people said, make sure she comes back. You, maybe, but her definitely. So she's here, she's gonna ask me a question or two, and then we're gonna read a few short pieces.
Okay, great. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
So Mac, tell us, how did the stories in this particular collection come together?
I've been writing for many years, and probably in 2005 I started doing literary fiction, but then I would have odd stories that didn't fit anywhere, so I put them over to the side. And then I wrote other things, and so I had a side pile that kept building up. And it was odd stories. Some of them were science fiction, some were horror, some were surreal, some just didn't fit in. They were the oddballs. And they've slowly built up, and finally it just got to a bursting level where I had to let them out. And so I was lucky that I knew about Border Books, was able to send them to Angela. She actually got back to me, and I think I sent her 19 stories. She sliced one out. There was 18. There was some. I thought this thing should be longer because I thought that's what she wanted. She thought I wanted a shorter book. So anyway, we got 18 stories, which I think is plenty, and very happy with the way they all got collected together.
Good. Great. Where did the title of the book come from?
So titles are a strange thing. You write down stuff on a piece of paper, and so I would write 6 or 7 titles, and I would email them to Angela, and she would say, "You're joking, right? Like, this isn't serious." And so I had a list, and I had ones like, you know, the blood moon howls in the bones of September, you know, like just ridiculous stuff. But I think at the very bottom of the list was When the Night Breathes Electric. So she liked that title, I like that title, because it's not meant to be logical. It's like a feeling. It's evocative. It gives you some sense of what's going to be there without actually yelling, "This is what's going to be there." So, and another favorite book of mine was Something Wicked. Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. And I always liked that title, so I was influenced a little bit by that.
Interesting. Good. So tell us something about the cover art. I see you have a copy of it here.
It sort of came from this painting, and I was thinking, I've seen a lot of very commercial books in here and other places where they just had sort of color and then the text written over it, like this. And so I thought, I'm going to try that, because in the past I'd just done books like this where the title was on the top and my name was on the bottom. So I thought, let's try something just writing across the thing. So in that case, it should be more abstract. And so I did this image. I sent it to Angela. I didn't hear from her for about 3 weeks. There was much discussion. She sort of found an area of it that she liked. And so we used that, we brightened it up a little bit, and then we put the print on top, and then it seemed to work out. So it was just an experiment, a lucky experiment.
I think it came out well.
Thanks.
Great. All right, great. So what are you going to read for us?
I'm going to read a short piece that's a Santa Barbara. This one is based in Santa Barbara. Most of my stories are not. We'll probably get to some humor later. This one, sadly, is not part of the humor. This is called Forever Now. The air comes scented with honeysuckle and eucalyptus, with purple nightshade and Indian paintbrush, and the wind touches your face as mild as a girl's hand, because it's May, when Southern California weather is sunny, in the upper 70s, and you just turned 18, so time passes slowly. An age when entire years can be wasted, thrown away, and when you wake up days afterwards, you can shake it off and still be young. Billy Turner sits on a low sandstone wall at the corner of Valerio and Anacapa Street. It's near 4, but despite the shadows, it could be noon or late morning. No sense of impending anything. Free from high school for the afternoon and soon forever, Billy is keenly aware that this is his moment, and he will never feel things with the same intensity again. The relaxed whoosh of cars sound as they glide by or turn on the corner, but they won't screech and honk for an hour. Billy salutes a friendly gardener, then dozes off, as he's wont to do, blanketed by the sun's late afternoon warmth. Out of school, Billy? The mailman shouts and ducks into his little post office truck. Billy nods, already halfway sunken into a dream. When he opens his eyes, he realizes time to walk another block south, toward the ocean. You'll daydream half your life away, his mother's voice echoes. Rustling sounds from high atop the towering palm trees. As a child, Billy imagined cute squirrels rooting around up there, but his father punctured that fantasy. Rats, he said. Mangy, filthy rats. Beyond the sprouting manzanita bush in a house hidden by cypress trees stands an older man, his face sagging with loss. Are you a local? Billy smiles. Yeah. My dog Edgar is missing, a black lab. He shades his eyes with a hand. If you see him down by the park, will you? Sure, definitely. Billy continues along, then hesitates to study a jacaranda in full bloom. His mother told him to focus on the powder blue purple leaves and hold them in memory because they would vanish before long. Billy hopes to remember the jacaranda even until tomorrow. His science teacher explained that the brain is made up of synapses, electrical sparks. Billy's mind sparks from one thing to another but never retains much. He plunks down near the corner of Arriaga Street. Billy's waiting for a girl. Was her name Anna? 17, maybe 16. 2 months ago, she filled his brown paper bag with Pop-Tarts, Reese's Pieces, and Tab, and lean cuisine for his mom at the Vaughn's on Victoria Street. Billy said something to the girl in passing, which he can't recall, but she laughed and gave him a piercing look. He knew instinctively she was interested. This bag girl saw quality in him that seemed worthy, and for a suspended second she remained frozen and waiting, curious, open to suggestion. He wore her admiration like a just-crowned prince. Billy broke the spell by grabbing his bag and loping out of the store. He'd been so much younger then, unaware. Spring term of senior year had only just begun, the one time in his short life when Billy felt special. After the supermarket incident, Billy expected girls in class, as well as those in 10th or 11th grade, to treat him with similar interest. He was wrong. Females didn't stare at him with longing, except Monica Walsh, who wore Coke bottle glasses and possessed a mouth still imprisoned by silvery braces. So now, Billy returns to the same spot each day, the pull of the moon and tides. Certain teenagers get off their shifts from Vaughn's at 4 and take Anacapa Street, because it goes by the manicured parks rather than the bland storefronts of State Street. Billy will remind this bag girl who he is, say something amusing to jostle her memory, then walk her home. Various girls stroll by and glance at Billy since he's a high school senior, and he smiles lazy, but they stare at the sidewalk because they're not Anna or Lana, or was it Diana? He shuts his eyes to summon her. Dishwater blonde hair she ties back in a ponytail during work. Sometimes she wears Heidi braids. Billy imagines the passage of years, her glowing at his side. Footsteps alert him. Another girl appears. Similar hair color, but she shows a longer nose and is sweaty from running. Billy notices slim headphones attached to a cassette player. Do you know Anna or Diana? She smirks, smiles, and shakes her head. Hey, what is that? He points at her device. Seriously? It's a Walkman. She exhales. I've had it for years. I fell asleep for a moment. Billy's not sure what he's trying to say. He strokes his cheeks, noting the sandpaper of an incipient beard. Bill Turner, she asks. Call me Billy. Still? She squinches her nose. Are you back in town? Never left. Going to college in the fall. Law school? Medical? No, not really sure what I want to do. She utters something between a cough and a snort, like a bird communicating in nonverbal sounds, squawks and caws that carry judgments, opinions. He studies her. You look my age, but I don't recognize you. Jenny Lewis, I was 5 years behind you. Really? Jenny's expression curdles. Do you need help? When he doesn't reply, she jogs off toward Alameda Park, sneakers slapping the pavement. And the weather remains comfortable, the warmth of the day pooling into this moment until Billy succumbs to the drowsy spell of the afternoon. It's cooler in the dark of his mind. When he startles awake again, the sun sits lower, diffused through the leafy spread of branches. A young Asian woman approaches, walking at a rapid pace. Do you work at Vaughn's? Vaughn's? Her mouth twists. Yeah, on Victoria Street. It's closed, she sighed. Are you all right, mister? I'm not a mister, I'm Billy. Maybe she considers him an adult. She squints. You're Bill Turner. Sorry to hear about your parents. Oh, they argue and fight a lot. Nothing new about that. I'll see them later at dinner. Both of them? Together? Yeah, of course. Billy studies the wires descending from her ears. Walkman? No, an iPod. She frowns. Do you need me to call anyone? The woman turns nervous, neck jerking like a skittish horse. Well, good luck. She hurries away. Billy waits and waits as car traffic boils up at the cross street. Working women tap by on heels, delivery guys pedal bikes, joggers pant, and middle-aged men whistle along, but no sign of her. Is it 6 yet? If he doesn't get home by dinner, his father may frown while continuing to read the papers, but his mother might say, I'm really disappointed in you, and that's much worse. Billy's face droops into the cup of his hands to exist somewhere between imagination and reverie. He pulls out of his trance. The world around him has gone dark. Streaks of salmon pink show to the west, while a powder blue color dies in the sky overhead. People walk dogs using flashlights, the jingle of collars followed by a skitter and scratch of paws. Others race past, holding objects to their ears while yelling. Billy stands, his spine aches. He trudges a few steps and his feet hurt, as if they went on a long mountain hike without him. So Billy sinks back down on a limestone property wall. Bright lights flash in strobing colors. 2 officers converge upon him. Sir, you've been here all day and now it's night, one says. Neighbors called us. You can't sleep outside in public. It's Turner, the other cop says. William Turner. He's harmless. No, my name is Billy. He gestures toward Mission Street. Need to get back home or my mom will be pissed. The two cops look at one another. Billy, where is your home? 134 West Mission, Billy answers. Our house. My dad bought it before I was born. Look, I'm a runaway. I'm not a runaway. I'm 18, man, an adult. The officer doesn't reply. 134 West Mission is an apartment complex, the first one says, mostly studios and one-bedrooms. The second cop shushes him. Billy, can we drive you home? It's an easy walk once I catch my breath. Serenity House is 3 miles away. What? I'm late. My folks will be worried. The cops confer and the first tucks into their police car. We can't force you to come with us, but you can't stay here. How about my partner calls Serenity to send a van? No, I'm walking home. Billy thrusts himself upward, then lurches to the north, beset by aches, by back pain. I wish you'd go the other direction. The officer points toward the ocean. Billy struggles up the gradual slope to Mission Street, breathing hard. The evening wind rakes his scalp. The night birds that had flitted about tree branches are replaced by bats swooping through the new dark. Billy smells his father's musky aroma and feels reassured until he realizes the odor is his own. Once familiar houses now look unfamiliar. His tired feet tromp over jacaranda petals, then crunch palm fronds. Wait, is that the same man searching for his dog? No, this fellow's wrinkled into a button-down shirt and boxer shorts, and he calls out for Dudley. The air comes scented with honeysuckle and the tang of eucalyptus. How many days, months, years has Billy waited for her? Anna, Lana, Diana? It seems like forever, or perhaps just one long drowsy spring afternoon in Santa Barbara. Thank you. And now, Maryanne Knight is going to read.
Thank you.
Do you want to sit over here and I can switch seats?
Where would you like me to be?
Oh, you're fine right
Okay,
there.
I'm fine. Okay, we can switch. That's fine.
Okay.
So when Mac asked me to pick a story from the book to read in the female voice, I jumped on this story, The Devil is in the Details, and I just want to say that when I first read the story, I remember reading it. I went back after I finished reading it and read it again. That's how much I liked the story. He's going to indulge me and let me read the whole thing, or an abridged version of it, because it's a little longer in the book. Okay. The Devil is in the Details. Emily prepared for the interview. A journalist meeting with a prisoner was rarely a relaxed or enjoyable experience, due to the prohibitive restrictions placed on such meetings by prison authorities. In this case, Virginia prison authorities. Absurd time limitations, no unsupervised discussions in the same room, that kind of nonsense. Rules dictated they would communicate on phones through a partition, and the conversation would be monitored by prison officials, but that didn't matter. A best-selling book could come out of the story. In recent years, lone gunmen opened fire on innocent people in malls, schools, and churches had become a regular occurrence in America. Why? Perhaps Emily could find some answers. And this would be the book to truly get inside the mind of a shooter. Emily felt privileged to be involved. Money, acclaim, prizes, all were possible if the series of interviews went well. Emily's coworkers Charlie and Bernie had counseled her beforehand. These types are serial liars, Charlie said. They'll tell you what they want you to hear, charm you, manipulate you. Do not be swayed. They can be very convincing. Yeah, Bernie added. Remember what happened with Perry Smith and Truman Capote? You see that movie? Both Bernie and Charlie were veterans who'd been in these exact situations before. Luckily, Emily had a photographic memory, since no recording devices were permitted for the meeting, nor laptops. Some modern prisons allowed open discussions at tables in a visitation lounge supervised by guards, but not in this 1950s era facility. Southern states seemed more determined to hold on to their past. The room smelled of cement and dust, of body odor barely masked by chemical cleaners with bleach. Emily caught a faraway whiff of cafeteria food, mashed potatoes, stew, oatmeal, things scooped out of large stainless steel pots with ladles. She pulled her chair as close as possible to the bulletproof separation, picked up the bulky phone left over from another century to speak with Dante Hodgson. May I call you Dante? Yes, of course. Dante had a neatly trimmed beard, glasses, short dark hair, and a high forehead. Not the forehead of a manipulator or a maniac, but of a thinker. even like a writer. Don't be distracted by his appearance. Everyone's mother claims they were a sweet child. For my initial question, Emily started. You mean I won't be able to ask you questions? Dante frowned. Since this is our first meeting face to face, Emily said, I thought I should do the questioning. Stay in control. In subsequent interviews, I'm open to give and take, back and forth. I guess I'm at your mercy, Dante said. But for this project to succeed, we'll have to work together, actually collaborate. Granted. Emily pressed hair back from her face. Since we only have 30 minutes, let me get down to it. You were college educated, Dante. What do you think causes these occurrences? Gun massacres? He gave her a quizzical look. Why was he so different than all the rest? Remained detached. Yes, she said. Some call it temporary insanity. Others say it's evil. You know, a person being possessed by malignant forces. Though psychologists would consider that to be a chemical or mental imbalance. There are the copycat theories where the media's relentless coverage sparks people into taking similar actions. What's your opinion? What's the nature of evil? You mean, do I think it's chemical or heredity or conditioning or satanic? Dante gazed at her through the partition, a gleam in his eyes. I was hoping you'd have theories. But since we'll be collaborating on the eventual book, I guess I should lay my cards, my beliefs, on the table. Emily heard clicking noises, the chatter of ghost voices inhabiting their phone line, and imagined sweaty men sitting somewhere nearby, monitoring the prisoner-to-visitor conversations. Stay focused. That's what Charlie told her. Keep the upper hand. Your last name is Duvel, Dante said. Is that French? Belgian, Emily replied. Were you born there? Emily smiled with impatience. Can we get back to my question? Dante's forehead strained in thought. The media sometimes says that lone shooters are born evil, he said, like it's in their blood, or that it was inherited from their parents' teachings and influence. Some suppose that killers are possessed by spirits, whether it's violent insanity or evil forces that are spiritual in nature. Dante paused. I come from a religious background. The desire to go to heaven and the fear of eternal hell were very real for me growing up. And where do you believe you're going, Dante? With my history? He laughed. I don't think there's too much doubt. His eyes turned harder. But seriously, you're the first woman to meet with you in prison? It's always been men before. Always. Emily shuddered. She felt Dante manipulating her with his guile. She hadn't expected him to act normal, and worse, to look attractive. She caught a glimpse of her spectral reflection in the hard, translucent surface. No, don't picture yourself on Dante's side of the partition. Do not identify with him. Keep a critical detachment. Emily squeezed her eyelids shut as she imagined Charlie and Bernie's counsel. They were hard asses. They would guide her through this. Emily opened her eyes. Dante stared at her, his face taut and constricted. Then he relaxed. Sorry, we can work up to that angle later. Let me continue with my theory, he said. I don't believe people are born evil or possessed by the devil. You see, our actions, good or bad, are controlled by chemicals in our bodies, as well as synapses sending electrical signals that influence brain functions. The only rational way to look at it, to explain these incidents, is through the prism of science. Is it? And you see it as chemistry over behavioral science. Emily paused. So you believe you were rational then and are rational now? Me? He seemed surprised. Yes, definitely. Lawyers didn't want to hear that answer. Maybe that's why recordings were forbidden in these interviews. Temporary insanity would be the only way to beat a death sentence in a gun massacre case. A sympathetic jury? Impossible. Emily squinted to see deeper through the thick fiberglass partition with its scuff marks and dull surfaces. What was it like on the other side? Could she survive a single day in that regimented order, in a world forever poised on the brink of violence? Many believe the Salem witch trials were a result of ergot poisoning, Dante said. Therefore, the women were not witches or infused with evil, but the ergot they ate changed the chemical makeup in their bodies. It caused them to act wild, to do things they would never have done ordinarily. Distorted intercom voices made announcements in faraway areas of the prison. Emily studied Dante. She'd expected a fool or a zealot filled with ideological fervor and a warped viewpoint. Not only was Dante intelligent, but he spoke dispassionately, like a science professor discussing data from experiments in a university classroom. Anyway, that's why the idea that Hitler was actually Satan, or that Charles Manson was possessed by demons, seems laughable to me, Dante said. Our brains and bodies are intricate and delicate systems. If one chemical lessens and another increases through dilation, brought on by drugs or by anxiety or by adrenaline levels spiking from a threat, then a stable personality can completely change in an instant. In other cases, the chemical balance alters slowly but incrementally. A paranoid person becomes antisocial, then progresses to believe that they're somehow threatened. At that stage, they may arm themselves until they finally reach a breaking point where they need to take action, go on the offense. Always leads to tragic consequences, as we've seen over and over again. Dante looked at Emily with an almost ancient sadness. Does any of this ring true? In my studies of other shooters, Emily asked, but he didn't reply. Your theory has validity, Dante, but I'm wondering, is that the argument you wish to put forth? Is that your defense? I thought we were collaborating on a book, he said. I don't need a defense. And we're not meeting today for you to defend me. That's what lawyers are for. Yes, lawyers. Linguistic magicians who could turn murderers into disturbed people, not responsible for their own actions. Emily said nothing. Dante was trying some transference trick on her. He clearly held a near genius IQ. She'd have to prepare more, be unrelenting in their subsequent meetings. Charlie and Bernie had been right. It was a chess game, and Emily wasn't winning this match. They'd critique her first interview later on. Sorry, I didn't mean to snap at you. Dante removed his glasses to wipe the lenses. Emily stared at the ground. The media and mass murderers, wrapped up in an unholy matrimony of reckless desire and needless carnage. Was Emily an accessory to Dante's crime, or was he an accessory to hers? A buzzer sounded and a prison guard moved through the visitation area to signal the various guests and inmates that their time was up. I hope you'll let me ask questions next time, Dante said, glancing over his shoulder. For the sake of the book, and because you're the first woman. He frowned. It's always men. Usually young, isolated white men. Then Dante looked happier. That's why this book, our book, is going to be a bestseller. You broke the mold. People are curious. A male and a female guard escorted Emily out. I guess it's back to my office with Charlie and Bernie, she said. Are they waiting to pick me up? Sure, whatever, the male guard said. You'll have the upper hand next time, Charlie told Emily, appearing vaporous beyond the gate of the hallway. You let him talk too much. Ignore those dazzling blue eyes. Dante's not your friend. He's using you. You can't let him fuck with your mind again, Bernie whispered in Emily's other ear. Don't you know that journalists and writers are the lowest of the low? They trick you by saying whatever they have to. They will lie, cheat, or steal to get the story the way they want it to be. Fiction is their preferred drug, Charlie said, and they only resort to facts when it suits their narrative. The guards led Emily downstairs into her solitary confinement cell. They locked it and left. She had been placed there for her own safety. Shooters who massacred a number of random people disturbed the other inmates, and scaring potentially violent prisoners rarely went well. When Emily tucked into her hard cot, both associates continued to counsel her in breathy whispers. She nodded and told Charlie and Bernie, yes, yes, yes. Then pulling the thin, itchy blanket around her, Emily became just an amorphous, balled-up shape wedged into the corner of her cell. It didn't matter. There would be another interview with Dante to correct things, and another visit after that one, too. A lifetime filled with possibilities.
So we're about at the end, but I thought since those are such heavy stories, I'd read something fast that's a little bit funnier. So to leave them laughing, they always say, right? Do we have 5 minutes, Mike?
Yeah.
Great. This is called Axis of Distraction. It was inspired because last year there was a shortage of medication that's very popular. In my day, they called these things, amphetamines and stuff. Now they're, brain drugs and they're mood helpers. So this is Axis of Distraction. Macy goes through her scribbled to-do lists, adding them onto the current master list. Then she reviews text to herself and writes those down too. Beyond belief. How can she ever complete it? And new tasks are always incoming. Separately, she has a running dialogue of reminders playing on a brain loop. Do the laundry. Pick up Hunter and Connor from school. Take daughter Merlot to ballet class. Get Brendan's shirts from dry cleaner. Scrub the oven. Wash your hair. Find something attractive to wear to the dumb party tonight. You don't really try to look sexy anymore, Brendan had told her in bed. Never in the mood when she was, nor was she when he was. I've got a lot on my plate, she replied, but was thinking, I'm holding your little bullshit world together, mister. All day I'm leveraging debt and foreclosing on loans so you can stay at home, he said. If you found a part-time job, then we'd hire someone around the apartment and you could fix yourself up like you used to. Do your laundry, pick up the boys, buy the groceries, ignore the husband. Pings chime from her iPhone, ignore. The laptop on the table sounds like a plane taking off. Something wrong with the internal fan. She can't finish any of the multiple tasks that cry out to her. What a fucking time for an Adderall shortage. Half the world is on prescription pep pills or crystal meth, and if not stimulants, then opiates. Most everyone Macy knew teetered on the edge of some addiction or was in rehab to get off another. She transports the boys home from school uptown. Connor takes her aside. Call me Connie, okay? What? Remember Sean? He's Siobhan now. I want to switch too. You're 11. Wait a while, please. Can I have surgery for my next birthday? Don't you understand, Connor? When you remove you can't just reattach it. I'll keep it around my neck on a locket. Macy grimaces. Gross. Is that a thing? She presses a hand to her throbbing forehead. Migraine. We're not discussing this now. It sounded so silly, but later she Googles it. No, it definitely wasn't a thing in American culture, but certain headhunters in Borneo had necklaces like that. Get those images out of your brain. Google is evil. Nobody trekked to the library to research stupid information in the past. Put laundry in the dryer. Take Merlot to dance class. Keep boys from watching porn on the internet. Withhold feminine harbor access to Battleship Brendan. Not sexy anymore? He's the one with the beer belly and receding hair. Hunter is almost 14, growing taller. Mom, if we move upstate, can I buy a rifle? No, she says. If we go anywhere, it'll be to Queens. Queens, that's a shithole. Hey, no cursing in the house, or in school, or in public. Where can I swear? She ponders. Underwater? Outer space? You're so weird, Mom. Merlot appears in her ballet outfit. It's only 5 blocks. Walk her over. Can't throw money around cabs anymore. Outside, crowds of pedestrians, distracted people, buses swerving, cabs honking forever, young idiots on e-scooters. Bikes pedaling against traffic, sirens blaring. Everyone's gonna die. There's the ballet school just across 6th Avenue. Mom, can I take Irish step dance? It's more fun. I thought you loved ballet. It hurts my toes. You're 10, Merlot. You don't understand the true meaning of pain. Are you okay? Macy leans against a brick building, diesel exhausted nostrils, out of rhythm with the universe. Mommy didn't have her vitamins today. She brings her daughter inside, waves to the instructor as if they know the slightest thing about one another, and remembers the nearby dry cleaners. Brendan drops his clothes off there and she retrieves them. Too much perfume and lipstick on your husband's shirts, the woman tells her. Have to charge more to clean. Macy doesn't use perfume and wears mostly lip gloss of late. Pay for the clothes, get Hunter to his French tutor, pick an outfit for tonight, scrub the oven, broil the husband. Returning home, the manager guy from the bank that abuts her building smiles through the glass, his mustache rising. His eyes show desire, but she has no time to schedule an affair. After the cleaner's revelation, she wants to, though, just for revenge. If only she could clone herself. Technology goes whizzing by with no advances in cloning to speak of. Just sheep. Who wanted more sheep? No one. The world needed people cloning, hair cloning, and baby fat cloning. She Googles Adderall again. The shortage continues. Users paying exorbitant amount to street dealers, some buying bigger dosage pills and carving them in half or into quarters. Spacey Macy, a voice yells, her nickname as a teenager. Sure enough, it's a high school classmate, Rod, Todd, but he's become all forehead and a massive ass in khaki pants. Pretend not to recognize, keep moving, dash around the corner. Macy notices how crowded the stores are, the streets extra massed, and on a Wednesday to boot. Fuck, tomorrow's Thanksgiving. Back upstairs, hands shirt to Brendan. Air kiss him, stay in motion. He talks incessantly. It's a small group tomorrow. Just make the usual spread for 9 of us. I'm overwhelmed. Can we eat out instead, please? No, that's why I'm going to the office party alone tonight. He stinks of new cologne. You are? She's confused. Why? To give you a break, babe. So you can make the stuffing, mix the gravy, prepare the bird. He darts away, then returns beaming. Don't worry about last night. There are surrogates who can help us work through our intimacy issues. Happens to everyone in their late 40s. Surrogates? Trained professionals to lend a hand. Macy retreats into the kitchen. Turning the lights off, she squats under the high kitchen table to listen to her son stomping around the apartment. If she doesn't sleep, she might be able to mash the potatoes, shop for vegetables, find all the kids' favorite stuff. Kids, oh shit, she forgot Merlot at dance class. Macy takes 2 sharp cutting knives from the wood block and scrapes them together, enjoying the zingy metallic sound. Honey, I'll leave a list to help you, Brendan shouts. He pushes through the swinging kitchen door. It's so dark. I can hear you, but where are you? Pick up your daughter, score some street Adderall, take a power nap, carve the turkey, carve the turkey, carve the turkey.
Wow. Nice.
So, Mike, you want to take over?
Let's ask people. Let's ask Max. Does anybody have any questions for Max?
Total silence.
I'll ask, like, where do your ideas come from then? Like,
Yeah.
Like,
I was born in New York City. Maybe that helps. A lot of different people and things rushing at you, and
that, yeah, that speaks to that story you just read, and that was so familiar from a woman's point of view. I was curious how you entered that.
I hope your husband's okay with that. I don't know how I entered that. I just see something like there's a shortage of Adderall, and then I see someone on PBS saying, I can't get anything done. You know, what's going to happen? And I just imagine that person going through kind of the worst meltdown of their life. So it comes from that. Also, when I was like 6 years old, my mom hated like R-rated movies, violence, anything with sex. So my dad took me to R-rated movies from the age of 6. I was his wing boy. So I saw a lot of movies I shouldn't have seen, but you know, that's where some of the writing comes from.
What about the people you write about? Do you get inspiration from moments or from people themselves?
Sometimes from people that I see, or like I go on walks at night and stuff, like the first story about Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
I would go jogging, and sometimes I'd see like Jim Alexander. You used to have a dog, didn't you? Didn't you walk your dog? Yes. So I'd see him walking dogs. So I didn't write it about him, but I would see different people, someone looking for their lost kid or their dog, and I would just sort of take little things and then imagine a story based around that neighborhood. You know, like different people happening. So sometimes it's a setting, a scene, and then sometimes it's a person that I see, and I think, what would their life be like if I can put my brain into their brain?
Interesting.
So that's about as close as I can get to it.
That's a good answer.
Mac, do you write every day?
No, not every day. So when I write, it's intense, like all day, and suddenly it's morning. But then there's times when I just have to read books or take breaks. I can't write every day. I think it's important. I think most writers know you have to read. You have to restock your memory and your batteries, so that you can write about something new.
Speaking of batteries, how do you stay recharged? I mean, you're doing music, you're doing art, you're doing literature, writing.
Never do them all at the same time. I never
Yeah.
do. So
How do you keep that going, though?
Well, I write a story, and then I say, maybe this story could use an image, and then I might paint. So I paint it. So I do it separately. One thing leads to another, but it's almost never all at the same time.
But they can bleed into each other. Though,
Yeah,
is there some-
and one good thing about doing a collection is that I say, oh, I'd really like to do the cover art. So then it's an excuse to go wild on painting for a while.
What about this book as far as ideas, and did you collect these stories, or this is something you actually sat down to do, is write a book of stories?
I collected them kind of over the years. So some from 2005 and 2006. Then I wrote novels, and then between 2015 and now, I would have like 3 weird stories a year, and I would put them aside, and then I knew they would all eventually be collected into something, but I didn't set out like, this is my book, it's gonna be this. It sort of falls together over time.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned New York as an influence, but what about other mediums, books, movies that really stuck out for you, that stayed with you throughout your life, throughout your literary career?
I think stuff you read when you're younger. As a teenager, I read a lot of like Ray Bradbury. I read Kurt Vonnegut, all of his books. I read a lot of kind of crazy books that, you know, you're not maybe supposed to read when you're 13 or 14, but I think 13 and 14-year-olds read a lot of stuff. They don't just read what's called YA.
Yeah.
They read whatever they can. So I liked stuff that was weird and zany and sometimes horrific, sometimes science fiction, sometimes funny. So I think it's stuff like that, and same with movies. I liked imaginative movies.
Mm-hmm.
So.
You turn any of your stories into songs?
Once in a while, and sometimes songs will give me, I'll use a song title and then I'll start a story from that title. So, you know, different things come around. Sometimes it'll be a song by someone. There'll be like a David Bowie song, or, you know, that I love the title, and so that launches an idea for a story.
The title of this book and the painting reminds me of a Bowie song.
Of a Bowie song?
Yeah.
Great. I wish he was still around.
Yeah, so do I. Go ahead.
I noticed that in 2 of the stories you talk about neurochemistry a little bit, the brain and synapses, neurotransmitters even. What started that interest for you?
I don't know. The weird thing about writing is when you're writing a story or a book, you research all kinds of things and you briefly become smart. And then you read it later and you're like, what was I talking about here? You know, you're sort of guessing at things, you're seeing things in articles, you're scribbling down notes, and you're trying to make it not sound too scientific or not like you're reading a manual. So it's just sort of thrown in there. But I love the idea that the monsters, if you're writing horror or science fiction, the monsters aren't these weird aliens, they're inside us. They're the things that happen if our brain chemistry changes. Charlie Manson, like in that story, he's a monster because he became a monster. So I love the idea of synapses and brain chemicals and things that change us. One day we're happy, one day, you know, what makes us bipolar, what makes Hitler, all those kind of things. Is that a long-winded answer?
It's a great answer.
Okay.
Go.
In a short story form, is there a time where as you're writing, the character takes you somewhere where you weren't expecting to go?
Yes. There was one story I wrote in here where it was all about a village, and I got so into creating the village and the characters in it that I lost track of time. And so at the time I was teaching at Jensen, and so I wrote all week intensely, like wrote the story, and I was like going in on Monday to teach lessons. The store is completely dark, but Mike Shiflett's in there. I'm like, Mike, is it a holiday? Why is no one here? He's like, it's Sunday. So through writing this story, I completely like lost a day. So that's where you get caught up in the story. And I think that's sort of good, except it's sort of like method acting for actors. You have to pull yourself out of it, or who knows what happens.
Got a question in the back.
Oh yeah.
Would you describe the tone of your writing as more Fender or more Gibson?
Well, I think of Gibson as kind of
Taylor or Martin, come on.
He's an electric player.
Gibson has a lot of sustain, so I like that idea. The story should sustain, but then Fenders have a lot of color and difference of tone. So I've always been a Fender and a Gibson person. You know, I can't just live with one. So that's a. Can I think about that question and get back to you?
Yes.
That's going to be my next collection. Is going to be about that.
We have time for one more question. Comments?
I really admire your relationship to your characters.
Thank you.
And what you just said, you put your mind into their mind, but I still can feel this respectful kind of gap and maybe a little bit of empathy. And this is kind of rare. Talk about it, please, a little bit.
Well, there's characters who are unlike you, and I told my friend Nick Deitch, who's not here because he's in Ventura, but I'm still gonna give him crap about not coming. Anyway, I told him about, I heard this guy talking outside my house at midnight one night. And he was on a bike and he was talking into his phone and he had a radio playing, and I was so mad, and I didn't want to call the police. I didn't know if I was going to go outside and talk to him, but then I just calmed down and I said, what would it be like to be a guy who was on his bike all day listening to a transistor radio? What's that life like? So I sort of cooled down after about a half an hour and just thought of it as a story idea. So that's it. Sometimes it's an initial annoyance or disturbance where I think, okay, maybe this could be something where I could just jump into this and see what it's like to be that without being too judgmental.
That's great. Well, Mac, thank you very much for sharing When the Night Breathed Electric. Once
for
again,
doing
Mac
this.
Talley.
I love Chaucer books. Where are you going to buy a magazine in town besides Chaucer books? Come on, this place is great.